So I just want to talk briefly about the criteria for your persuasive speech, and kind of how what this should look like, and what it should kind of be like as far, because this is your final. This should be your best work. All right, this should be your very best work, and it should show me what you've learned. So I want to go over these criteria and give you some tips for picking your topic and kind of getting started on this speech. So what is this persuasive speech? Well, a lot of the same things that you did in your motivational, you're going to be using in your persuasive, because they're both kinds of persuasion. You're going to use ethos, pathos, logos. You're still going to be appealing to your audience, but this one is really more focused on making an argument where you're trying to change how people think, not how people act. So normally what you're going to do when you come up with a topic, you want something that has, and this kind of shows you down here, you want a topic that has been in the news in the last 6 months or so, okay? And you need to have something that's controversial enough to have two sides, but narrow enough to fit within the time. So try to avoid these big, huge issues like the death penalty or the legalization of recreational marijuana or, blanket like abortion. Just because these are such big topics, you really can't do them justice in 7 minutes. Also try to stay away from topics that are so stock that your audience has heard them over and over and over again. These are things like raising the drinking age, or that's the big one that I'm totally bored of hearing. Or, some of those topics that are very, very, kind of overdone, for lack of a better term. And you also want to try to think about, what is my proposition? What is the thing I'm trying to create or change? So are you doing a proposition of fact, value, or policy? I will tell you to stay away from propositions of fact, just because the scope and time of the speech isn't going to allow you to get into the depth necessary to really do proposition of fact. So proposition of fact is or something true or not true. And so this in a lot of cases are a big one I see all the time online: climate change. Is climate change a thing or not? And the problem with that is that very, very few of the people engaging in the debate about is climate change a thing are not scientists or people who really deeply understand the data. They are seeing data, and they're using that data to actually support a value argument that, climate change isn't a thing, so we really don't have to worry about it. And so their argument isn't a proposition of fact, it's a proposition of value, because it's not debating whether or not the data is true, it's whether or not this data supports this belief I have. So try to avoid propositions of fact, because you probably don't have time to get into them. Propositions of value are okay, but they can really end up getting out of control quick as far as scope, because whenever we're dealing with values or beliefs that we're trying to convince somebody of, it can very, very quickly meander into other topics. You can start kind of going over the hill, and it's really easy to get an argument that is not unified or cohesive. So they're okay, but they're harder. My favorite for this speech, given the scope, time, and time frame for prep, are propositions of policy. This is where you're trying to convince a target, the state of Missouri, Jefferson College, the United States, the Federal Reserve, whatever, to do a specific action or to adopt a certain policy, provide free child care, legalize, or make single-use plastics illegal, give everybody a universal basic income, okay, whatever. Those are policies. And then arguing whether those are good or not good. All right, so those have a tendency to make better topics for these kind of speeches. Not because they're any better or worse as far as speech, but because of the parameters and the time frame, they have a tendency to be more efficient and quicker to create. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that I'm looking for in this speech is a very strong organizational structure. And in the persuasive PowerPoint, I actually give you some additional structures to use. I really want you to be thinking about, if I choose to do reasons, how am I unifying those reasons? If I'm doing comparative advantage, how am I setting up that argument? And you want to do that well before you start researching, all right? And so that's really important. I also really want to try to see you using claim, evidence, and warrant, which again are covered in the PowerPoint for this week. Okay. As far as the overall criteria, I want you to be around 7 minutes. I will have to cut you off at 8:30, so 8 minutes 30 seconds, I will have to ask you to stop talking. This says 5 card limit. Okay, I am not counting your cards. Here's the thing I don't want to see. I don't want to see you buried in your notes. I want to see you looking up, engaged with the audience as much as you can through a camera, and, looking and read your statistics, of course, but try to keep your eyes up and try to keep yourself sounding natural and extemporaneous, as we have talked about. Okay. Visual aid, yes, and as always, if for some reason you have a hard time displaying it, let me know. I can always put it up. Big thing here, guys, I do need to see your face if it's at all possible. So please try to, one thing I have had people do is they show their face with their phone and then bring their visual aid up on their computer and then just mute the mic on the computer. And then that has a tendency to kind of make it able for you to show both pieces. So don't be afraid to experiment with that. This is 100 points. So this is double the normal speech. And I am looking for 5 to 10 sources, and I need to hear at least 5 verbal source citations according to or in an article by, listening for a minimum of 5. But again, if you make a claim, you better back it up with evidence. If you say that, drinking smoothies, we should make smoothies illegal because they are an offense to fruit. I don't know. It's been a long day. You better have a backup for that, even if you have 5 sources in other parts of your speech. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind. One thing you will notice is that the outline is for extra credit. At this point in the semester, if you don't know how to do an outline, we're kind of out. But please make sure you are doing an outline at the very, very least. Okay, it's really important. In the Persuasive Speech Prep folder, I've got some goodies here for you. I've got some mistakes that people make, some additional stuff about logic fallacies, how to get into the online databases for the campus, and then some sample speeches here. I haven't looked at these in a while, so they may or may not be awesome, so make sure that these work. If not, just let me know, okay? But I hope that they can kind of help you get your speech together. This is the last one, folks. Show me what you can do. I can't wait to hear them. You got to start by signing up for a topic. Remember, no repeats, so get yours in soon. See you soon, y'all.